Okay, yesterday we learned that all complex systems, and in particular people, have a threshold for what they can handle coming at them. That when more comes at them from the environment, and by the way, this could include their internal environment, all the stuff that comes from all the past experiences you've had, all the traumas you've had, all the whatever, as that stuff comes up into conscious awareness from time to time, as you know it does, that's part of the input that might very well be too much for the system. So the system is a flow. It can handle all this stuff going through it, and it can handle quite a bit of fluctuation and change in different situations. But there is an upper limit to how much of this entropy, this randomness, this chaos, that the system can disperse to its environment. And when it reaches its ability, it's the top of its ability to disperse this entropy, it begins to build up in the system. The system gradually begins to go into chaos, and eventually, if pushed far enough, it will just come screeching to a halt, fall apart, and then reorganize at a higher level. And there are an infinite number of possibilities of how it can reorganize. One of those possibilities is that it will not reorganize, that the system will die. But since there's an infinite number of other possibilities, chances are pretty strong it's going to reorganize in some way. And the characteristics of that reorganization are that the system is more complex and that it can handle what the old system could not handle. So this is obviously what's happening when we use the Holosync. It's pushing, and it's creating enough input that the brain goes through this cycle. Now, the big piece of information for you is to realize that when you go into this period of chaos, that this is a good thing, that this is happening. It's not a bad thing. It's the prelude to growth. It's the prelude to having a new map of reality that works better. So right now there are many of us in this room that are in chaos as a result of everything that's gone on here, because we've given you in many different ways a tremendous amount of input. Michael has been giving you all this input of heart energy, and those of you who have been kind of closing down your heart all your life in order to not feel things, Michael is pushing at you. Beverly is pushing at you with all the things she's had you do, of looking people in the eye and telling them who you are and all of that. And we're pushing you with these ideas that we're sharing, and we're also pushing you real hard with all this really powerful Holosync. So some of you are in that chaos right now, and you know who you are. So what this means, though, is that you're ready for a big shift, and once that big shift happens, you're going to be different. Here's kind of how it goes. At first, everything makes sense. You have a map of reality, and it makes sense to you, and it explains pretty much what's going on, and you can motor around through your life, and things make sense. Then, all this input comes, this chaos starts, and things don't make sense anymore. And then this reorganization happens, and they make sense again, but in a totally new way that you never would have imagined before. So that's kind of the thumbnail sketch of what's going on and what we talked about yesterday. Now, what I want to talk about today is how people respond to this, how people respond to going into this chaos state. And I think you will begin to recognize yourself in this. And then we can talk about how you can respond in a way that makes the whole process easier. Now, I have observed that as people are pushed into this chaos state, they tend to react in really one of two ways, basically. And consider the analogy of a boat that's out on the water, and it begins to leak and fill up with water. It's starting to sink. It's getting overwhelmed, you might say. What would you do? Anybody have an idea? What would you do with the boat? Yes, Richard.
What
He would plug the holes. And you say,
Start bailing out.
oh,
Start getting rid of the water.
and those are the I suppose, just plug your nose and go down with the ship might be a third one, and some people do that too. But that's right. Some people decide they're going to bail like crazy. There's more coming in than they can handle, so they start bailing like crazy. Those are the people that get angry, that exercise compulsively, that do anything that pushes energy out of the system. And they just keep doing things to push energy out of the system. Now, some of these things are socially acceptable, quote-unquote, healthy things. Like if someone blows off that energy by exercising every day, that's what most people consider to be a pretty healthy thing to do, as opposed to flying into a rage and shooting up everybody in the post office where you work. So that's one way. Push the energy out. There's more coming in than you can handle, so you do whatever behaviors you have learned to push it out like crazy. Then there are the people, as Richard said, who plug up the boat, try to find the hole and plug it up. These are the people who say, there's too much coming at me, so I don't want any more input. I don't want any more coming at me. So these people begin by isolating themselves, and if they need to block things off even more, the next thing they do is become depressed. And if that doesn't work, then they become ill in some way. Now, I find it very interesting that when people get depressed, it's a total shutting down. Not only do they shut down in terms of not wanting to have any input by being around people, but the pupils of the eyes constrict so that they take in less light. And the people that are depressed just want to be in the dark. They don't want any input from any kind of talk. They just want to, they breathe less. They actually take in less air. And if you see people that are depressed, they just kind of roll up into a ball almost. So you've got these two extremes, people that want to push the energy out and people that want to block any more from coming in. Now, those two strategies, and then there's a third sort of overriding strategy, which are people that just distract themselves from whatever's happening. They smoke, or they get high, or they drink, or they talk to their friends, or they watch television, or they read all the time, or they pick something that just distracts them so they won't feel whatever's going on. They won't feel this chaos. All of these things work to a degree, particularly the first two that I mentioned. So if you can blow off enough energy by getting angry, for instance, then you can bring the pressure down to where it isn't quite so intense. It causes other problems in your life, of course, but it can blow off enough energy. So there's all these therapies that are heavy emotive therapies, like primal scream therapy was really the original one, where people go in and get in touch with all this primal anger and rage and fear and everything, and scream and yell, and then very often in dark rooms. Well, like they're in the womb, you mean? Yeah. Well, these people often, and we have a lot of people in the program who have been through things like this, and we talk to them from time to time. People that go through this type of therapy often feel totally different for 6-8 months. And they think, wow, whatever it was, it's gone, and I feel fine. But they have not allowed the system to reach that point where it would reorganize at a higher level, where the new system would have the capability of handling whatever was bothering the old system, because it has this greater ability to dissipate the entropy. So that means that after a while, what's coming at them from life begins to build up again, and because the threshold is the same as it was, they begin, after 6-8 months or so, to exhibit the same old problems that they had
The
before.
other thing that happens is they get